In this video, we will review the principles of transformations. Before we begin, let me list out the 7 rules that I want you to memorize. Let's start with reflections. So there are 4 reflection rules that you just need to memorize. Alright, make sure you have these 4 memorized. Let's see, you have reflections over the x-axis. Okay, and that rule is a point xy becomes the point x opposite of y. Okay, you have reflections over the y-axis, and when you reflect over the y-axis, a point xy becomes the point opposite of x, y. Alright, now you have reflections over the line y equals x, and in that case, a point xy will become yx. Okay? And then you have a reflection over the line y equals negative x. And in that case, the point xy becomes the point opposite of y, opposite of x. So those are your 4 reflection rules that you just need to memorize. Now here are 3 rotation rules that I also want you to memorize. Okay, 90 degrees clockwise. Alright, a rotation 90 degrees clockwise, and these 3 rules are all about the origin. Okay, we're rotating around the point 0, 0. So 90 degrees clockwise, that's going to be y opposite of x. Okay, now how about 90 degrees counterclockwise? Alright, 90 degrees counterclockwise. That's going to be opposite of y, x. And then we have a 180 degree rotation about the origin, which would be the same regardless of if you go clockwise or counterclockwise, so we won't bother mentioning that. You know what, I just realized I forgot to put the xy in front of it. But this is going to be xy becomes opposite of x, opposite of y. Okay, I'm going to go back and squeeze in the xy becomes part to my rules, so I can be consistent. Okay, xy becomes y opposite of x, and xy becomes opposite of y, x. Notice that every time I put this little negative sign into the rule, I don't say negative x and I don't say negative y. Instead, I say opposite of x or opposite of y, because that's really what happens. This little negative sign just means that the sign is going to change. It does not mean that the answer is going to be a negative number. Okay? Anything else that comes up involving these transformations, we can use common sense. So notice I didn't include among the 7 things I want you to memorize, I didn't say anything about translations. That's because if I want to move up 6, I already know that I'm going to add 6 to the y value. Alright, because that's how you move up 6. So this point is going to become 8, 0. Alright, I just added 6 to the y value. If I want to reflect across the x-axis, alright, the point is going to become x opposite of y. So that means I'm going to keep the x, which is 8, and then I'll do the opposite of y. So I will put a positive 6. Alright, notice one more time, this rule does not mean a negative y. Notice I don't make this a negative 6. Always say opposite of y and opposite of x when you read these rules. That will remind you to do the opposite of whatever it already is. Okay, now we're going to do a reflection across the line y equals x. Well, that'll just be y x. Okay, so, this is the original point x comma y. So I'm just going to put y and then x. Alright, I'll just switch them backwards. Okay, 180 degree rotation about the origin. We do opposite of x, opposite of y. So opposite of x is negative 8, opposite of y, positive 6. Then you've got your 90 degree clockwise rotation. Remember, that's going to be y negative x. So y is negative. Did I say negative x? I meant the opposite of x. Not negative x, opposite of x. So we're going to do y, which is negative 6. And then we'll do the opposite of x. And that would be negative 8. Okay, when you do a dilation, that's not one of the things that we've memorized. But when you do a dilation, all you really do is you multiply each number by the scale factor. Alright? When you're dealing with the origin, it's just that easy. I'm just going to use this space down here and then I'll erase it. So I'm going to take that 8 and I'm going to multiply it by 5 over 2. And I'm going to take that negative 6 and I'm going to multiply that by 5 over 2. You just multiply by the scale factor. Alright, but this is just going to give me 40 over 2, because it's like 8 over 1, and 8 times 5 is 40. And this is going to give me negative 30 over 2. And that's just going to be 20 and negative 15. Alright, I'm just dividing each of these by 2. So that should be the answer. It should be 20, comma, negative 15. Okay, and that's how you do a dilation when the center is the origin. Okay, moving on. Translate 4 units to the right and down 1 unit. So I'm just literally going to do that. So if I go 4 units to the right and down 1 unit, that would be right here. So this will be my A prime. And if I go 4 units to the right and down 1, then this should be my B prime. Okay, it's kind of hard to draw a straight line on here, but forgive me for my crooked lines. It's hard to do with this bamboo pen that I'm using. Now, reflect AB across the line y equals negative x. Okay, I'm going to do this using the rules. Alright, I think it would be the easiest thing to do. So reflection over the line y equals negative x, that's opposite of y, opposite of x. So I'm just going to take the original points. Alright, so point A is the point negative 4, comma 3. And point B is the point negative 1, comma negative 3. Okay, so again, reflection over the line y equals negative x, that's going to be opposite of y, opposite of x. So opposite of y, that'll be negative 3. Opposite of x, that'll be positive 4. Okay, opposite of y, that'll be positive 3. Opposite of x, that's going to be positive 1. Okay, so A prime should be at negative 3, comma 4. So here we go. Negative 3, comma 4 would be right here. So that'll be A prime. B prime is 3 comma 1. Okay, so 3 comma 1 would be right here, and this would be B prime. Now, this is the hardest part for me, is drawing this line right here. So you're just going to have to forgive me for how crooked that looks. Alright, but you get the idea. Now, rotate 180 degrees around the origin. Okay, again, I'm just going to use the rules. So we have a new A and B. Whoops, I didn't mean to write A prime. Okay, point A is negative 3 comma 3. And let's see, point B is 0 comma negative 3. Okay, 180 degrees around the origin. That's just opposite of x, opposite of y. Alright, so opposite of x, opposite of y. So that'll just be positive 3, negative 3. Alright, opposite of 0 is still 0, but the negative 3 will become a positive 3. Alright, so let's see what we've got. 3 comma negative 3. This should be my A prime. And 0 comma 3 should be my B prime. Alright, let me see how much of a hassle it is to draw an actual line so I won't be so embarrassed with my crooked lines. Alright, that wasn't too much of a hassle. Maybe I'll do that from now on. Okay. Shrink vertically by a scale factor of 2/3. So look, a vertical shrink is only going to affect a y value. So if I have a point like x comma y, if I'm going to do a vertical shrink, I'm just going to multiply the y value by the scale factor. Alright, let's say this, I'm calling this scale factor k. So imagine that k was 2/3. So I'm just going to multiply. You know what? I'm not sure why I didn't just put a 2/3 in there. Skip the k. Because I'm a silly goose, that's why. So I'm just going to do 2/3 times the y value. That's all. So, okay. So the point A, alright, these two pictures are the same. So I'm still dealing with negative 3 comma 3. And I'm still dealing with 0 comma negative 3. Alright, so my A prime is going to be negative 3 comma, and then I'm going to have to do 3 times 2/3. And then my B prime, I'm going to keep that 0, but then I'm going to have to do negative 3 times 2/3. Okay, I feel like doing some calculations off to the side. If I have 3 times 2/3, that's like 3 over 1. So that's going to be 6 over 3, which is 2. Alright, so that means A prime is going to be negative 3 comma 2. Okay, and I'm going to have 0 comma. And the only difference is the negative, so this is going to be negative 2. Alright, so negative 3 comma 2 would be right here. So that's going to be my A prime. And 0 comma negative 2 is going to be right here. So that'll be my B prime. Okay, and now I'm going to draw that line using my line tool. Now I feel silly for not doing that in the first place. That's so easy. Okay, yeah, vertical shrink. Okay, reflecting across the line x equals -1. X equals a number is a vertical line. So this is going to be a vertical line at -1. So I should probably draw that. Okay, so we're talking about a vertical line at -1. Okay, make this a nice turquoise color. Alright, so that is my reflection line. Okay, so if I want to reflect A over this line, I'm going to go the same distance to the other side. So A is 3 to the left, so I'm going to go 3 to the right, and then that'll be my A prime. B is right on the line, so when you reflect and you have a point on the line, it does not move. So my B prime is going to be in the same spot as my B. Alright, now temporarily when I go to draw this line, it's going to be turquoise. But I'll just jump over and jump back. Change it to red real quick. Okay, rotate 90 degrees clockwise around the point -1, -1. So I cannot just use my rules that we memorized, 90 degrees clockwise, that's opposite of y, that's y opposite of x, because this is just for the origin. And we're supposed to rotate around the point -1, -1. So I'm going to use a strategy called move to the origin and back, so that I can use the rule. Okay, so here's how you move to the origin and back. First, start by recording the original points. So my original point A is the point -4, 3. And my original point B is the point -1, -3. Alright, so this strategy is called move to the origin and back. So the way you move to the origin is figure out what would it take to move the center they gave you to the origin. In other words, what would it take to turn this into 0, 0? Well, I would have to add 1 to both of these. Alright, that's a +1. And then I'd have 0, 0. So we're going to do that to all the points, so in that way we will move the whole picture to the origin. So I'm going to add 1 to everything. Alright, so if I do that, I'm going to have -3, 4. Okay, and here I'm going to have 0, -2. Alright? Now, so now this is now the origin, and these points are based on the origin. So now I should be able to use my rule. So remember, 90 degrees clockwise, that's the rule where we do y opposite of x. Okay, that's the rule that we're going to do. So I'm going to do the rule now. So I'm going to keep the y, and I'll do the opposite of x. So that would be +3. Alright, I'm going to keep the y, which is -2, and I'll do the opposite of x. Well, the opposite of 0 is still 0. Okay, the last thing you have to do to get your final answer, your A prime and your B prime, is you need to undo what you did. So we moved to the origin, now we have to move back. If I added 1 to everything to move the picture to the origin, then I need to subtract 1 to undo that. So this is me putting everything back the way I found it. So that's going to leave me with 3, 2 and -3, -1. So this will be the final answer. So 3, 2, okay, will be my A prime, and -3, -1 will be my B prime. Okay. Now we need to dilate from the center 2, 3 by a scale factor of 1/3. So whenever they give me a center that's not the origin, we have to move to the origin and back. Okay, these pictures are the same. So A is still -4, 3, and point B is still -1, -3. Now the center this time is 2, 3. So if I want to change this to the origin, I'd have to do -2, -3. So I'm going to do that to all of these points. So I'll do -2, -3, -2, -3. So this point is going to become -6, 0, and this is going to become -3, -6. Okay, so now I have moved to the origin. Now that I'm at the origin, I can do the rule. Okay, and so when you do a dilation, you just multiply everything by the scale factor. So I want to do some calculations off to the side. So if I'm going to do -6 times 1/3, okay, that's just going to be -6 over 3. That's going to be -2. Okay, so that'll be -2. If I do 1/3 times 0, that of course that'll still just be 0. Okay, I need to multiply -3 times 1/3. Well, if I do -3 times 1/3, alright, this is -3 over 1, so that'll just be -3 over +3. That'll just be -1. Okay, and I already saw that when I multiplied by times -6, I got -2. So this -6 again will give me -2. Alright, so I move to the origin. Now I use the rule. In this case, just multiply everything by 1/3. Now it's time to move back. I moved to the origin, now I'm moving back. So I need to undo what I did at the very first step. So at the very first step I did -2, -3. So now I'm going to do +2, +3. Okay, and this will give me my final answer. Okay, so this is going to give me 0, 3. Okay, and B prime is going to be 1, 1. Okay, just double checking. Alright, so 0, 3 is going to be right here. So that'll be my A prime. And 1, 1 is going to be right here, and that'll be my B prime. For this next one, we are supposed to do 2 transformations in a row. Okay, so I'm just literally going to do 2 transformations in a row. So point A is the point, you know what, maybe I can just do it right here. I'm afraid there's not enough space. So point A is still the point -4, 3. And point B is still -1, -3. Alright, so first we're supposed to do 90 degrees clockwise around the origin. So 90 degrees clockwise, that's the one where we do y opposite of x. So that's what I'm going to do. So a prime, I'm just going to do y opposite of x. So that'll be 3, +4. And then my b prime, I'm going to do y opposite of x. So that'll be -3, and then +1, opposite of x. So +1. Okay. Next, we're supposed to take our a prime and b prime and do a 180-degree rotation around the origin. Well, a 180-degree rotation, that's the one where we do opposite of x, opposite of y. Okay, we've memorized that. So that's why a double prime is going to be -3, -4. And b double prime is going to be, okay, we're just doing opposite of x and the opposite of y. So opposite of x, that'll be +3, and opposite of y, that'll be -1. Okay, let's graph these and see what we have. So let's see, -3, -4. No, I almost messed that up. So -3, -4 would be right here. Alright, and then 3, -1 would be right here. Okay, so this is my a double prime, and this is my b double prime. Alright, so now we're supposed to decide what single transformation would get us from AB to A double prime, B double prime. It looks like a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation to me around the origin. I can imagine rotating this way, and A is going to rotate around and come to A double prime, and B is going to rotate around and come to B double prime. That's what I am envisioning. Okay, but I don't want to guesstimate. Let's use the rules to check my hypothesis. Okay, look at B compared to B double prime. So if this is the point X and Y, right, because that's the original point. Alright, let's see what happened. Okay. Let's see. This 3 is the opposite of Y. So I'm going to put the opposite of Y right here. And this -1 is X. So I'm going to put X right here. So what rule is the rule where we get opposite of Y and then X? Well, yes, that is a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation. All right, that's what we memorized. Okay, so 90-degree counterclockwise rotation. All right, around the origin. Okay. Fill in the blanks to describe transformation that would map this square onto itself. Okay, so first, reflections. If you did a reflection over the y-axis, all right, I mean, here's the y-axis right here. If you did a reflection over that, it would look the same. So a reflection over the y-axis. Whoops, I could squeeze this in there. Y-axis. Alright, similarly, if you did a reflection over the x-axis, Alright, this would look the same. So x-axis. Did I put a little equal sign in there? Ah, Burton. Try that again. Just make myself so tired sometimes, people. Okay, y-axis, x-axis. What else? If you did a reflection over the line y equals x, alright, this diagonal line, can you see how that's a mirror image on either side of that line? So if I reflected over this line, it would still look the same. Alright, that's what it means to map onto itself. So if you reflect over the line y equals x, this is going to still look the same. Okay, in a similar way, if you were to reflect over this line, alright, this picture would still look the same. And that's the line y equals negative x. Alright, now let's talk about rotations. If you rotated this 90 degrees clockwise around the origin, right, because the origin is right in the middle of the picture, the picture would still look the same. If you did 90 degrees counterclockwise around 0, 0, the picture would still look the same. If you rotated 180 degrees around 0, 0, meaning if you turned it all the way upside down, it would still look the same.